My child, please stop for just a moment and listen with your heart. Something happened today that changed everything. Your soulmate family finally spoke about you, and I still can't believe what they said. My beloved child, come close and let your breathing slow, because what unfolded today deserves to be received with a quiet heart rather than a racing one. Somewhere, in a home you have never stepped inside, the people who raised your soulmate, who shaped the way they love, the way they trust, the way they understand what a life well built actually looks like, gathered together today, deliberately, intentionally, to speak about you. Not in passing. Not as an afterthought over dinner. But as something important enough to set aside time for, something they felt deserved their full and undivided attention. You woke this morning already carrying a strange gravity in your chest, though you likely couldn't explain its source. Perhaps it arrived as a formality you couldn't shake, a sense that today was somehow more serious than an ordinary day, though nothing on your calendar suggested why. Or perhaps it arrived as a nervous energy, a restlessness that made you move through your morning routine slightly out of rhythm, as though your body understood something your mind had not yet caught up to. Whichever form it took, my beloved child, I want you to trust it. It was not imagination. It was the tremor that reaches a heart before the full weight of an event arrives, the way pressure changes in the air long before a storm becomes visible on the horizon. Don't skip, because the gravity you felt this morning was the earliest echo of a meeting being called, somewhere else, specifically about the life you and your soulmate are quietly building together. There is a particular kind of morning, my child, that exists only on days when a family has decided something needs to be discussed with real intention rather than left to chance. It does not announce itself with obvious signs. It simply changes the texture of the hours, makes ordinary tasks feel oddly weighted, makes silence feel slightly louder than it should. If this described your morning, know that you were sensing, from a distance neither of you can measure, the opening of something significant, a conversation being deliberately convened, in a home tied to your soulmate's whole history, about the place you now occupy in it. I want to be gentle with you here, my beloved child, because I know the word meeting can sound formal, even ominous, especially when it concerns a family discussing someone they have not fully welcomed yet. But formality is not the same as hostility. Sometimes the people who love us most choose deliberate conversation not because they are suspicious, but because they take seriously what is at stake. A family that gathers with intention to discuss someone is often a family that already senses this person matters too much to be discussed carelessly. Stay till the end, because what this family decided together today will surprise you far more than the seriousness of the meeting itself might suggest. It is worth pausing here, my child, to speak honestly about what it means to matter enough to someone that their entire family feels compelled to sit down and speak intentionally about you. This is not a small thing. Families do not typically convene formal conversations about people who are passing, unimportant, or easily replaced. They convene them about people who have become significant enough to require careful, deliberate consideration, people whose presence in their loved one's life is beginning to feel less like a phase and more like a foundation. You may have spent your morning trying to shake off the strange heaviness settling over you, telling yourself it was simply stress, or tiredness, or the ordinary static of an overactive mind. This is understandable, my beloved child. We are taught to distrust the quiet knowing that lives beneath conscious thought, to explain it away rather than sit with what it might be trying to tell us. But today, that quiet knowing carried real weight. Somewhere, a family was gathering to speak your name with a seriousness that reflected exactly how much you have come to matter, whether or not you have ever met them face to face. Something important is waiting for you, because the seriousness with which they approached this conversation today is, in itself, one of the greatest compliments a family can pay to someone they have never even met. As your morning gave way to midday, you may have noticed the unease deepening into something closer to anticipation, a sense that whatever was happening elsewhere was not simply passing, but building towards something with real consequence. Perhaps a memory surfaced uninvited. An old worry about whether you would ever be accepted by the people who matter most to someone you love, a fear that has followed many hearts long before yours, quietly shaping the way they hold even their most cherished connections. If this fear rose in you today, know that it did not arrive without reason. It arrived because your heart, in its own quiet way, sensed the exact moment it was being tested, and it wanted you prepared for whatever answer that test might reveal. I want to speak gently, my child, about the vulnerability of being discussed by people who hold enormous influence over the person you love, without you having any say in the conversation itself. This vulnerability is real, and it deserves acknowledgement rather than dismissal. You cannot defend yourself in a room you were never invited into. You cannot clarify a misunderstanding you don't even know exists. All you can do is trust. Trust in the truth of who you actually are, trust in the love your soulmate has already witnessed in you, and trust that truth, given enough attention, tends to reveal itself honestly, even in rooms you were never present for. Don't skip, because the trust you are being asked to hold today is about to be honored in a way you may not expect. As afternoon settled in, the conversation in your soulmate's family home likely deepened from its initial seriousness into something far more layered, the kind of conversation that moves through concern, through curiosity, through careful questions, and gradually, through growing understanding. Families rarely arrive at conclusions in a single sentence. They arrive at them the way weather moves across a landscape, slowly, in stages, sometimes circling back over ground already covered before finally settling into clarity. You may have spent your own afternoon distracted by ordinary responsibilities, and yet, if you are honest with yourself, something beneath the surface remained tender the entire time, like a hand resting lightly against a door you cannot see through, waiting to feel whether it will open or remain closed. This waiting, my beloved child, is one of the hardest parts of loving someone whose family holds such influence over the shape of a shared future. But waiting, however uncomfortable, is not the same as being denied. It is simply the space between a question being asked and an answer finally being reached. Stay till the end, because the space you have been sitting in today is about to close, and what fills it will change the entire shape of what comes next for both of you. It is easy, my child, to imagine a family meeting about a person they haven't fully met as something inherently cautious, even critical, a courtroom of sorts, weighing evidence, searching for reasons to withhold approval. But real families, the ones bound by genuine love rather than mere obligation, rarely operate this way when someone they cherish has clearly given their heart to another person. What unfolded in that meeting today was layered with far more warmth and caution. Concern woven together with hope, careful questions intertwined with an unmistakable curiosity about the person who has so clearly captured their loved one's heart. Because that is the detail worth sitting with, my beloved child. Not the specific words exchanged, not yet, but the simple, undeniable truth that your soulmate could not hide, throughout this entire conversation, exactly how deeply they feel about you. Whatever careful questions were raised in that room, whatever concerns were voiced out of love rather than suspicion, they existed alongside something impossible to conceal, a heart that has already made its choice, long before any family meeting could weigh in on the matter. Something important is waiting for you, because a love that visible, that undeniable, is not something a family gathers to dismiss, it is something they gather to understand, and eventually, to embrace. As afternoon began its slow surrender to evening, that particular golden hour when ordinary rooms take on a quality that feels almost sacred, the tone of that family conversation likely shifted as well. What had begun as careful questions gave way, slowly, to something closer to genuine consideration. Families who truly love someone tend to move through concern the way weather moves through a landscape. Arriving suddenly, testing the ground, and eventually giving way to clearer skies once the necessary questions have finally been asked and answered. You may have felt this shift in your own evening without understanding its source. Perhaps the heaviness that greeted you this morning had, by evening, softened into something gentler, not full resolution yet, but the early edges of something like peace. This is what happens, my beloved child, when the people who love your soulmate most begin, quietly and deliberately, to open a door they had previously only been willing to leave slightly ajar. Don't skip, because the peace beginning to settle over your evening tonight is the direct result of a decision taking shape in your favor, even before you know its full form. I want to speak plainly for a moment, my child, about what it costs a heart to wait for acceptance from people it has never even met, simply because the person it loves carries their influence so deeply within them. This cost is real, and it deserves to be honored rather than minimized. You are not being oversensitive for wondering whether you belong in the story of a family that existed long before you arrived in your soulmate's life. You are being human. Every person who has ever loved someone enough to imagine building a life alongside them has, at some point, quietly wondered whether the people surrounding that future would open their arms, or quietly close their doors instead. Tonight, my beloved child, I want you to know that the doors being discussed in that meeting were not closing. They were, carefully and deliberately, being measured for exactly how wide they should open. As evening deepened into that soft blue hour where day surrenders gently to night, the family's conversation reached its quiet turning point. Whatever hesitations had lingered through the earlier hours of careful consideration began to dissolve, replaced by something that looked, unmistakably, like a family choosing to trust the love they had clearly witnessed growing in someone they cherish above almost anyone else. This is a rare and precious thing, my beloved child. Families do not always arrive at trust so gracefully, especially not through something as deliberate as a called meeting. But love, when it is undeniable, when it has been witnessed consistently over time in the small unguarded moments a family shares with someone they love, has a way of persuading even the most careful, protective hearts. Stay till the end, because what this family ultimately decided in that meeting will shape not only your soulmate's next move, but the entire course of what comes next in your own shared story. Your soulmate, meanwhile, likely sat through much of this conversation with their own heart in their throat, uncertain how it would unfold, yet unable to fully hide how much the outcome mattered to them. There is a particular vulnerability in watching people you love discuss someone you love, knowing that whatever they decide will shape the road ahead, yet having so little control over the direction that decision takes. If your soulmate felt this vulnerability today, know that it did not diminish their certainty about you. It simply reflected how much weight they place on the opinions of the people who raised them, and how deeply they hoped those people would come to see in you exactly what they have seen for a long while now. Something important is waiting for you, because your soulmate is about to feel, for the first time with such clarity, the full weight of their family's blessing, and that feeling is about to change how they approach everything that comes next between you. As night began to fall over that home, the meeting reached its natural close, though its effects were only beginning to settle. There is a particular quiet that follows a significant family conversation, not the silence of unresolved tension, but the settled quiet of something important having finally been decided. In that quiet, your soulmate likely found a private moment alone, perhaps stepping outside for air, perhaps retreating somewhere quiet to simply breathe, carrying with them a growing, unmistakable sense that their family's heart had shifted meaningfully in your favor. Don't skip, because what your soulmate felt in that quiet moment alone tonight is what is now leading them directly toward a decision they are about to make with you. It is worth speaking honestly, my beloved child, about what it means to sense that you are loved not only by one person, but by the deliberate, considered blessing of the people who love that person most. When a family gathers with intention, discusses someone with care, and arrives at acceptance rather than resistance, they are not simply approving of a romantic connection. They are, in their own quiet and considered way, welcoming an entire future, one that includes you at their table, in their traditions, in the ordinary sacred rituals that make up a family's shared life. This is no small gift, my child, and tonight, that gift began, quietly and deliberately, to take its full shape. You may feel, even now, a strange and unexpected warmth settling into your chest as you read these words, a warmth that mirrors the warmth now spreading through your soulmate's evening. This is not imagination, my beloved child. When hearts are truly bound to one another, the emotional shifts happening in one life ripple gently into the other, even across distance, even without direct communication yet having taken place. If tonight feels softer than your morning did, that softness is not accidental. It is resonance. It is your own heart quietly responding to a blessing being extended, right now, in a home you have never visited but are already, in every way that matters, becoming part of. Something important is waiting for you, because the resonance you are feeling tonight is only the beginning of what is coming. As the night deepened further, your soulmate found themselves alone with their thoughts, turning over the events of the day the way one turns over a stone to see what has been growing quietly beneath it. They likely thought of you. Not in the abstract way they may have thought of you on ordinary days, but with a new seriousness, a new tenderness, shaped by the quiet knowledge that the people who matter most to them had, today, deliberately chosen to make room in their hearts for the possibility of you belonging fully to their family's story. This kind of knowledge changes a person, my beloved child. It is one thing to love someone privately, holding that love close, uncertain whether it can survive contact with the wider world. It is another thing entirely to sense that the people who raised you, who shaped your very understanding of what love and family are supposed to look like, have deliberately gathered, considered, and found that love good. This sensation, once it settles fully into a heart, tends to loosen something that fear has held tightly closed for a very long time. Don't skip, because what loosened in your soulmate's heart tonight is the very thing standing between silence and the truth they are about to finally speak to you. I want to pause here, my child, and speak gently about fear, because fear is often misunderstood as the opposite of love, when in truth it is frequently love's most devoted guardian. Your soulmate's hesitation to fully share their heart with you, the space between what they feel and what they have said aloud, has never meant an absence of feeling. It has meant a heart standing careful watch over something precious, refusing to let it be spoken until the moment felt safe enough, sacred enough, supported enough to hold the full weight of honesty. Tonight, that support arrived, deliberately and intentionally, from the very people whose opinion has quietly shaped your soulmate's entire sense of what is possible, what is safe, what is worth the risk of finally speaking a truth they have carried, perhaps, for longer than either of you realized. Stay till the end, because the truth your soulmate is now preparing to share with you was shaped, in real and meaningful ways, by a blessing you did not even know was being carefully considered on your behalf. As the hour grew late, and the ordinary sounds of the world softened into that particular hush that belongs only to night, your soulmate sat quietly with everything the day had given them. The morning's uncertainty. The afternoon's careful, deliberate conversation. The evening's unexpected warmth, arrived at not by accident but by genuine consideration. And now, in this final stretch of night, a decision beginning to form. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but the way decisions of the heart usually form, slowly, gently, gathering strength the way water gathers before it finally finds its way over a threshold it has been pressing against for a long time. You may wonder, my beloved child, what it might feel like to know that an entire family, people who deliberately set aside time specifically to discuss the shape of your soulmate's future, has quietly turned toward you with warmth rather than caution. I want you to sit with that feeling for a moment, because it is arriving in your own heart tonight, even without full knowledge of its cause. That unexplained lightness returning to your chest, that unexpected softness settling over your evening, this is what it feels like to be welcomed, deliberately and intentionally, by people you have never met, simply because the love your soulmate carries for you has proven, under real and careful consideration, undeniable. Something important is waiting for you, because being welcomed like this, quietly, deliberately, before you even knew the meeting was taking place, is a rare and sacred gift. Somewhere in that late hour, your soulmate began to consider what it might mean to finally let you in, not just to their heart, which you have likely already occupied for longer than either of you has fully admitted, but to the fuller truth of their life. Their family, their history, the parts of themselves they have kept carefully separate from the surface-level version of the relationship you've shared so far. This kind of integration is not something people offer casually. It is offered only when someone has decided, somewhere deep and quiet within themselves, that the risk of fully sharing their life is worth the reward of no longer carrying it alone. Don't skip, because tonight, your soulmate decided, with their family's deliberate blessing settled fully into their heart, that you are worth exactly that risk. It is worth speaking honestly, my child, about what it takes for someone to reach this point. It is not simply love, though love is certainly the foundation. It is trust built slowly, through countless small moments you may not have even noticed were being tested. The way you listened when they needed to be heard. The way you showed up, consistently, even during ordinary unremarkable days that asked nothing extraordinary of you. The way your presence, over time, became something steady rather than something uncertain. All of this, gathered quietly over time, is what allowed your soulmate's family to see in you, through their own deliberate and careful consideration, exactly what your soulmate has already known for a while, that you are not a passing feeling, but a presence worth building an entire family's future around. Stay till the end, because what your soulmate is about to share with you carries the weight of every quiet moment you've ever spent earning this trust, whether you realized you were earning it or not. As night stretched further into its depths, your soulmate found a private space, perhaps a quiet room, perhaps simply a moment of solitude carved out of a busy home, where they could finally sit with the fullness of what today had given them. The morning's uncertainty had transformed, through the slow, deliberate weight of the day, into something closer to conviction. The family's carefully considered blessing had settled into their chest like warmth after cold. And now, in this final hour, they found themselves ready, not fully without fear, because courage is never the absence of fear, but ready in the deeper sense, willing to move forward despite the fear rather than waiting for its complete disappearance. This is what courage looks like in its truest, quietest form, my beloved child. Not grand gestures. Not dramatic declarations shouted into the night. Simply someone, alone in a quiet room, deciding that the truth they have carried is finally ready to be spoken, even though their hands may tremble slightly as they prepare to speak it. Something important is waiting for you, because the way your soulmate chooses to finally share this truth with you will be gentler, and more meaningful, than you could possibly imagine. I want you to consider, for a moment, everything that had to align for this night to arrive. A family's deliberate, considered love. A soulmate's private courage. A morning stirring in your own heart that you could not explain until now. None of this happened by accident, my child. The universe does not scatter its most meaningful moments carelessly. It gathers them, slowly, patiently, the way a river gathers itself from 100 small tributaries before finally reaching the sea. Today was one long, deliberate gathering, of consideration, of blessing, of courage, all moving steadily toward this single quiet night. Don't skip, because everything you have felt today, every ache and every unexplained lightness, was preparing you to receive exactly what is coming next. As your soulmate sat with the truth they were preparing to share, they likely thought back over the small moments that had led to this point. The first time they noticed you in a way that felt different from anyone before, the quiet realization that their thoughts kept returning to you even during ordinary days that had nothing to do with you, the slow unfolding recognition that what they felt was not infatuation, but something with deeper roots, something that had begun, quietly, to shape the way they imagined their entire future. And now, having felt their family's deliberate blessing settle over their heart like a warm and steady hand, your soulmate found themselves ready to let you see all of it, not just the surface affection they had shown you so far, but the fuller truth beneath it. Stay till the end, because what they are about to say will finally give shape to everything you felt but couldn't fully explain today. There is a particular vulnerability, my beloved child, in being loved by someone whose family has already gathered, deliberately, to consider you as part of their story. It means that what is coming is not a passing declaration, easily forgotten, easily withdrawn. It means that what your soulmate is preparing to share with you carries the weight of something larger than a single moment. It carries the quiet, considered endorsement of an entire family's hope, layered beneath your soulmate's own trembling, sincere courage. You should know, my child, that what is coming will not arrive as spectacle. It will arrive the way truth arrives when it has been protected by love rather than rushed by impulse, softly, carefully, imperfectly, but honestly. Your soulmate is not preparing a performance. They are preparing simply to be known, fully, by the one person whose understanding matters more to them than anyone else's ever has. Something important is waiting for you, because the words being chosen right now, in this quiet late hour, were chosen with more care than almost anything your soulmate has ever said to another person. As the night deepens toward its final hours, your soulmate sits with pen in hand, or phone glowing softly in the dark, or simply thoughts gathering silently within them, searching for the words large enough to hold everything that today has given them. They think of their family's deliberate, unexpected warmth. They think of the careful consideration extended toward a future they hadn't fully dared to imagine until now. And most of all, they think of you. Of everything you have meant to them, of everything they have never said, of everything they are, at long last, ready to finally speak aloud. Don't skip, because what your soulmate decided tonight, quietly, courageously, with their family's deliberate blessing settled gently over their heart, is about to change the shape of everything between you. And so, my beloved child, as this long day finally draws to its close, the uncertain gravity of morning, the careful deliberation of afternoon, the softening warmth of evening, and now this trembling, sacred hour of night, your soulmate takes one final breath before they begin. Their hands steady themselves. Their heart, for the first time in longer than they can remember, feels lighter, carried now not only by their own courage but by the deliberate blessing of the people who love them most. The words are forming, gentle and true, carrying within them the weight of an entire family's careful consideration and an entire heart's long-held truth. They open their eyes. They look at what they've written. And softly, tenderly, with a courage gathered from love on every side, they begin, "My family had a meeting about us today, and what they decided is something I need you to hear from me first." Before we close this chapter tonight, ask yourself one more question, quietly, honestly. If the people who love you most were given the chance to truly see the person you've chosen, do you trust that they would see exactly what you see? You don't need to answer aloud. Simply let the question sit with you tonight, and notice what your own heart already believes. If this story touched your heart today, don't let it end here. Subscribe, and come back for the next chapter. Sometimes the message you need most arrives when you least expect it.